DJ, or Yukon Strong, as you're known on Twitter, on YouTube, on all the multiverses of the internet sphere. What is going on in Canada? We've got this crazy story hitting right now. We've got Prime Minister who's resigned out of disgrace, whether he's resigned or not. He said that he's going to. And we have a president that's coming in the United States that's making threats. He's making threats of tariffs if we don't change our behavior as a country. And then also saying, why don't I just absorb you? You can become the 51st state. So this is the topic of tonight's discussion. And I wanted to just leave it open for you at first. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Clyde. Much appreciated for you to be here. And in preparation for becoming an American citizen, I know that down in Texas, they like to put, cattle horns on their Cadillacs and stuff. Up here in the Yukon, we hunt sheep, and I love this one. I got this one 2 years ago. Don't worry, folks, it's all legal. There's a little plug there from the government and all that. But yeah, I got my sheep horns, and of course, I got my AR-15 because this is what America is all about, right? Guns, freedom, free speech, and basically everything that Canadians lack. So. Yeah, I just thought it would be nice to entertain the idea for a moment and see how I feel. My mother's actually American, so I'm half American, half Canadian, I guess, but I do not actually have dual citizenship. I am 100% Yukon, 100% Canadian. I could probably pursue it. Just never felt the need to abandon my home yet, I guess, is the key word. And my personal position on that is patriots don't flee. I think that right now Canada needs every voice it can get, and political change is in the air, to say the least. So now is the time for all of us to fix what's broken, I think. And all of this stuff with Trump and the 51st state, I more than anything, you know what it is, Clyde? It is a wake-up call for Ottawa, right? That this is how the rest of the world is viewing us. This is how the Americans. You go.
We're a mockery.
Well,
it's a joke. It's a joke to them.
Correct, but it's also a wake-up call of what their policies have done to Canadians, to our culture, to our identity, to our reputation. Like we are the Liberal Party. Trudeau himself can't seem to refer to us as Canada anymore. They call us not Canada.
Well, let's get into that. I actually have a clip here of Trudeau on American news. He went on CNN because he's down there. Carter's funeral is taking place, and he popped on there. And this is from Stephen Taylor, and this is what he had to say.
President-elect Trump has been needling you a bit, calling you Governor Trudeau, talking about making Canada the 51st state. Did you have any interaction with him today?
No, not today. But that's not going to happen. Canadians are incredibly proud of being Canadian. One of the ways we define ourselves most easily is, well, we're not American. There is such a depth of pride that's not actually an issue.
President-elect.
That's not even who. Is that a real sentiment in Canada, that you're not American? Because I do recall this growing up. I've always been a dual citizen, and growing up, always in border towns for the most of my life as well. Mm-hmm. It's always been, Canada good, America poo poo. I've never seen it that way because I come from both cultures. I love both cultures, and when you travel around, you'll realize that actually there's no monoculture in Canada anyway. There's like different enclaves of cultures all over the place. It's fantastic. And the US is much the same. And Canada, in a lot of different areas, has so much in common with our American counterparts. I don't really see it as like we're something and we're not that. I just don't see it that way. How do you see it?
Well, I think that sentiment, that snooty sort of look down your nose sentiment, we're so much better than the Americans, that I think is a distinctly sort of Eastern, Southern Ontario sort of attitude, Ottawa bubble sort of
Well, I
attitude.
think it started with Pierre Elliott Trudeau. I think he
Yeah,
was the one who really fomented that concept in Canada.
because like how does that sound like the Liberal Party of Canada always looking down at us little people, that elitist attitude, that it's that mentality that while we actually know what's better for you, it's for your own good, you know, little person, and you're not so bright and we're educated and we know the best way for us. And that's kind of the same view that they've taken towards the Americans. I have tons of friends in USA, in Alaska. I lived in Maui in Hawaii for 2 years. Some of the best people I know are Americans, and my own mother's American. So any US citizens out there watching this, believe you me, you come to Canada, you need a place to stay. You will have a bed on my couch and every assistance I can afford to you to help you do whatever, or just have a good time. We can go out shooting guns, catch some fish, whatever you like. I don't care. The
Just good old hospitality. I mean,
correct,
you
you
see that
know.
on both sides of the border.
Well,
Except when you go into liberal enclaves where you get into like city territories.
and
You'll find that on both sides of the border.
yeah, and look what happened when shit got real. Oops, sorry, am I allowed to swear on here?
I'll bleep
Yeah.
that one, but that's fine. Keep
Well,
going.
look what happened during 9/11, right? Canada, we opened our homes and did whatever we could to take in Canadian citizens. You know, we have always stood alongside the Americans, our allies, fought to defend their country, our country, other countries. We have a century of history together, and it's very interesting how our country developed. Like we very nearly almost were part of the United States. You know, there was actually, I believe, an amendment in the original Constitution, or I can't remember what it was, a provision saying that Canada could join, if I recall correctly. But it's definitely, I think that all of us in North America here, we need to realize that the world is becoming a very hostile place, economically, socially, militarily. And the last thing we want to be doing is picking a fight with our friends and the people that we know we can trust.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, and that you raise a really good point there. What I see from Trudeau, what he's trying to do again, I mean, he's lost everybody in Canada. He's lost all Canadians, and now he's trying to do this divide and conquer thing with America. Like
Yeah.
that's what he's doing now. Trump, on the other hand, I almost see this as like kind of a tough love thing. It's like it's a ribbing. I don't think anyone really seriously takes him seriously. That he wants to absorb Canada and make them a state, but he's using it as a tactic for better negotiation. Like, yeah, we'll just take you over. We'll just you'll become one of us. In fact, I've got a clip here of him talking, and he does sound like he's serious about an actual attempt to take over Canada in this clip. But full context, here it is.
Military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order. We don't need anything they have. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have.
That's very true.
We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you, if we didn't, because we give them a lot of money. We help them. As an example, we're buying icebreakers. and Canada wants to join us in the buying of icebreakers. I said, we don't really want to have a partner in the buying of icebreakers. We don't need a partner. But no right. Nope. No right. Here's what we have. We have a right not to help them with their financial difficulties because we owe $36 trillion too. We're going to start knocking it out pretty fast, but we're going to be able to do it because of energy and other things.
So I think this is a pretty, decent sentiment. I mean, it's hard and it's ribbing. But I don't see it as serious. Like, yeah, we're going to take over Canada. They're actually going to become a state in the United States. But it's listen, we don't need everything that you do. We could do without everything that you do, except maybe the energy. But so when you come to the table with these, a 250% tariff on milk products and stupid things that the Canadian government is trying to do, stuff that they would never allow with interstate commerce, right? They would never accept that. The federal government would not allow for that. And, they wouldn't allow for that there. So when they see this, the nation of Canada just run away, their heads in their behinds and saying like, yeah, we're the big guys on the block and all of that stuff financially and with their economy. He's saying, nah, you know what? I'm gonna knock you down a peg. I'm gonna knock you down a peg, and then we can start from that level and do some negotiations.
Well, there's a few things there. So when he was talking, Canada and USA, that would really be something. I think he sincerely meant that. I think that if Canada were amenable to it, Donald Trump would absolutely annex the United States. Do I think he would roll in by force and try and take us? No, I think that's pretty far-fetched. But one of the things that every Canadian needs to consider is that if they do that, there's no stopping them, right? We have let our armed forces, our country is not in a position civilly, militarily, economically to put up any sort of resistance, not only to the United States, but pretty much any other country on earth right now. And this, of course, is all pretty much Justin Trudeau's fault, but it's not all his fault. For many years, the Canadian people have more or less neglected our military. We've been okay with it. We should have been calling for our leaders to help our veterans, to help our armed forces grow. And we kind of hit a point there, not too long ago where we really were producing some spectacular stuff. Like our sniper team was one of the best on the planet, if not the best. I actually, when I was out in Maui, I trained with the US sniper team out there doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they were just there for like a week, and they just needed a gym to work out. It was just total fluke. And they told me that they went and trained with the Canadians, and the Canadians were the ones who taught them. And I was like, are you kidding me? I didn't know we had that good of a sniper team. This was way back like 2009, I think. And
across the board, I think there was reports from Afghanistan that the most feared soldiers in that conflict were the Canadians.
Yeah.
The translators would say that, like, we're not afraid of you guys, these guys are these guys, but we're afraid of those Canadians. If we know they're coming, we're out. So yeah, I mean, we have always had a formidable force militarily. It's famous, during the world wars and all the way up to present day. Well, all the way up until present day, where we've completely neglected it, as you're saying.
And worse than that, now they've completely emasculated our armed forces. They really, very much during COVID, and like most other government institutions, there was an ideological purge, is what I witnessed. That they got the people who would follow the woke doctrine in, and the people who said, whoa, this is crazy, guys, they got them out. And it's really infuriating to me, because now they've sent what was left of our military more or less over to Ukraine, and now the federal government's saying that they need my guns, my personal firearms, to send over to Ukraine to fight. Are you kidding me? And
I think that's absolutely BS. Like, that's not even to be taken seriously. They're not sending people's 22 rifles or an assortment of sporting rifles over to Ukraine to soldiers. But no military in the world would accept that as a gift.
Correct. But this is how they think, right?
They're stupid. You're right.
They're they're like toddlers in many ways. And the problem is that, now we see the reactions all of a sudden. There's an account specifically on X now, Twitter, called No Guns in Canada. All of us in the gun community, we refer to this account as NGIC. This guy or girl, we don't know who it is, has been like Canada's absolute biggest gun troll for years now. This guy has spent day after day trying to antagonize and lobby the government to really like send police to a gun owner's house and shoot them in many cases. And now all of a sudden, since Trump has said this, he's saying that he would not only embrace arms but use them to defend the country. And he's calling now to see how Canada could get nuclear weapons to defend themselves. This is all within 24 hours. And we're seeing Jagmeet Singh talk tough, other MPs talk tough. All of a sudden guns are kind of useful. And
it's in fashion again. It's in fashion. Isn't that the way? Isn't that the way though? Socialists that want to disarm the populace, but then it's like, oh, we're in a conflict. Let's use those things that you were all trying to acquire to protect yourself in case of an emergency, such as what you're discussing.
Well, all I have to say is this, and this is a very serious message I would like to send out to your followers, is that the world is a very real and very scary place, and firearms are absolutely essential to maintaining order, not just in the United States, not just in Canada, but globally. With one side having weaponry and the other side not having weaponry, you will see abuse, tyranny, and horrific actions of any kind. It doesn't matter what the culture is, what the political climate is, you will see abuses because there are always going to be people in our society who will try to make people do things by force. And
it's the nature of things. That's the way people behave.
It is. Equalizer. It really is. It puts a stop to the tyranny before it can start. Everybody has to think twice. Right? Well, maybe we don't want to do that because what if the situation develops, right? It makes everyone pause and clear heads prevail. Now, by the same token, you do get the other side, which, you get maniacs getting guns and stuff like that too. But this is one of the things that really makes Canada unique on that.
What's one maniac with a gun versus a bunch of law-abiding citizens that are also armed? Now, so I want to get into this, and the Second Amendment concept really plays into this. My audience is very divided, and I've noticed this over the past couple of weeks, talking about this. Divided on this topic, on the idea of embracing Americanism and becoming a joint partner in the United States of America, or no, patriotism, we're not American, that's part of what defines us, that thing. But the ones that are embracing the ideas of American exceptionalism are saying, yes, give me a constitution that protects me with the First Amendment, Second Amendment. We're even seeing Fifth Amendment, people, this is the right not to incriminate yourself. Give me something like that, and I'm on board. I'll fly whatever flag you want me to fly. I'm seeing these comments in my comment section. These are real opinions. And, you have people saying the total opposite. No. If we want this stuff, we're going to fight for it ourselves. And we got to hunker down and do the hard work. What's your reaction to that split?
Well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to come on your show tonight. I wanted to talk to people about this because I don't know how close you've been following my feed lately, but I have been very fiercely advocating for Canada to convert from a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic. And
I'm with you.
The reason for that is not because I hate Canada, and I know that people have a lot of nostalgia regarding Queen Elizabeth and the history and how the monarchy played a part in Canada. And it must not be forgotten that men died for this country. Many men died for Canada. And on our watch, unfortunately, we have let it all go to shit. It's shameful, and I blame myself most of all for sitting back and watching cowards and weak men and passive aggressive and emotional manipulation, censorship, lies, and tyranny destroy my home. And um, you know, the reason that I think that converting to a republic, why it's so appealing to me, is because it affords us an opportunity for a new constitution and to build that constitutions with amendments that prevent all of the things that we went through the last 10 years from happening ever again. And this is unfortunately a bridge, I think, too far for most Canadians right now. But I'm noticing that more and more people are like, when I first started posting about this stuff, I get maybe 10 or 20 likes. Some of my posts I put up, I get thousands of likes. Now people are embracing this idea. I had Theo Fleury was in favor of a constitutional republic the other day. What's his name? Kirk Lubimov.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson actually once upon a time voted for or advocated for Alberta to separate and form their own republic. So the notion that the consciousness of the flaws with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Canada's system of governments and
our
how,
confederation is in general. Now, I've been advocating quite a bit for the balkanization of Canada. Why not separate all the provinces? They have their own governments already, and then come together in a new union. And we can call that a constitutional republic, and
Sure.
have a totally better deal. I mean, just the way we historically came together,
Mhm.
it really benefited certain parties and not other parties. That was really the way it worked. And we're long past the times when that all worked, and we have a lot of people who have political power, i.e., Quebec and some of the Maritimes, that maybe they shouldn't have wield such political power over the finances of finances of other provinces. And that becomes an issue. And so we're at a time where people are coming to grips with these ideas of either separation, balkanization, forming a new form of government. And then the US comes along and says, hey, why don't you just become the 51st state? I mean, for a lot of people that are, agreeing with what we were just talking about, they might see that as a fast track. Is that a good idea, or is this a negative? I don't know.
Okay, so I agree, and that's how a lot of people are viewing it. And there's oh wow, this is what they're thinking. And basically, for anyone out there considering if this were to actually happen, annexation, there's three kind of things you need to consider. There's the social ramifications, the economic ramifications, and the cultural ramifications. So socially, okay, right off the bat, one of the biggest differences is you're going to lose free healthcare, right, overnight. So that is something to consider.
Yep.
However, you're going to gain the right to bear arms. You're never going to have to worry about the government freezing your bank account or censoring you in the way that the Liberals did some of the COVID violations. The U.S. Constitution did fail in some respects during COVID, but I would argue that those failures are rapidly being corrected now, and that is 100% due to Elon Musk, X, and the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Yeah.
We would also, gain access to and the right to defend our property from criminals. Like, this is a real problem in Canada now. The police are telling us to leave our car keys out for the criminals to take them. There's random shots being fired at people's homes, kidnapping, blackmail. Theft
There was a story last week where somebody went in and robbed someone's house, and while they were robbing the house, someone robbed their vehicle, their bike. They stole their bike, that there was a getaway vehicle, so like the thief got thieved. It was this is Canada. It's crazy.
And something else to consider, especially from a social perspective regarding healthcare, is, do we have free healthcare? I don't think so. We pay an enormous amount of taxes, and is healthcare even working? How many of you out there don't have a doctor anymore? How many of you out there wait years for like simple reparative surgery, like on your shoulder or something? Like, It's
Well, I mean, we could talk about the healthcare thing because nobody's advocating for the U.S. style system. Both sides have some serious issues, but we
yeah,
know where we know where Canadians go when they can't get service.
it ain't
They go to
working.
the States.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not working. And if you're at life or death situation, you go to the United States. You don't go to
yeah.
Canadian doctors.
And no Americans are coming here en masse to get medical procedures. It's not
Correct.
going the other way around. So that's pretty cut and dry right there.
Now, economic considerations. Well, we gain arguably the most powerful currency in the world, more or less overnight. But
It's a
that
better store of value for our money
well,
earned.
it would depend. Like moving forward, the time you invest in your work would absolutely earn you more real world tangible goods. It would
Mhm.
more or less eliminate the inflation we're experiencing right now. But the thing is, I don't know how it would work. Like, would our Canadian dollars turn into American dollars? Because that would cause inflation for them. Or
Well, we
would
would have to buy it, but so Argentina's going through a similar thing where they're dollarizing their economy, and there's a whole it's a wean in process. It's not something that can happen overnight, but they may first have to make it incentives and then legalize it, but make it becomes like a two-tiered system and gives people time to get out of it. And always the last people hanging on lose all the value because it becomes worthless at a certain point. So yeah, it's a tricky one to just switch to another currency without destroying the first currency that you had.
The other really important thing to consider economically is that basically, the lowest income bracket American citizen is pretty much wealthier than most middle class here now.
Yeah.
And if that border were to be eliminated, very wealthy American corporations, individuals, interests would come up here. They would be buying our land, our minerals, our oil leases, our housing. It would just be a stampede of all of them trying to profit off of us initially. And we really economically, I think, would have a difficult time to compete with that. So that would be something that I would not really like to see happen, for obvious reasons. One of the main strengths that Canada has as a people is our natural resources, is our plentiful spaces. And, we don't need Bill Gates coming up here and buying all our farms too. Like, come on, so
The Chinese are though.
that's you're right. The Chinese are up here in the Yukon. I spoke about this last time on your show. They come up, they buy these mines up here, they sabotage them, they leave a massive economic waste, and then they declare bankruptcy. They run this scam where they declare bankruptcy and buy off all the debtors that they borrowed money from for basically nothing, and then walk away with our minerals. So yeah, that's again something that needs to be addressed by a new constitution in Canada, sovereign rights, protections for our
but
borders.
that's all something we could do on our own. We don't need the United States for that.
Correct. And the other one, and this is the big one, why I'm not actually in favor, I don't think, of becoming the 51st state, is that it would come with one price tag, of the cultural price tag, which would mean it is the end of the Canadian people. It is the end of us. We would be American. We would be rapidly swallowed up by their culture, by their people, and within a few generations, more or less forgotten. We would be treated as Americans on the global scale, or global market. And I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be from the Yukon. I'm proud to be Canadian. I was at one time. The last decade has been very difficult for me emotionally.
Yeah.
And
I'm smiling because what comes to mind is, have you ever met a Texan?
Oh yeah. Good people,
Yeah,
man.
they're Texans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it'll be the same if Canada was a part of it. They would be Canadians.
Canadians. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, it really is that. And for people who haven't met a Texan, Texans are very proud of being from Texas. And they'll say that, yeah, I'm Texan, like they'll let everyone know that they're Texan. Yeah, they're American and they're proud of being American, but they're Texan. And that's That's a thing.
I don't think we would be treated like Texans in the United States, though. We would be looked at as cowards who were easily conquered, more or less. We would really, basically, anytime you got in an argument with anyone, you'd be mocked and bigoted for that. It's already happening all over social media. Like, if there's any right wing American influencers out there watching this, like, I follow most of them, and I agree with all the things they said. They've done an amazing job getting Trump elected in America and turning it around and stuff. I love some of this stuff, the content they put out and stuff, but man, they've really been laying it on to us Canadians. And
well, I want to get to this. So one of the things that is the biggest joke that's being perpetrated from the American influencers on the right now is the fact that they see it as a joke. They don't see this as a real thing. It's not a real threat. America's not coming to invade Canada. Chill out. Like, take it as a joke, laugh about it, and then move on, because this isn't a real thing.
Yeah, it's not a real thing, and yeah, it's trolling for likes and whatever. I get all that, but I think if
the sentiment's there because of how many Canadians are actually on board with it, even though it is a joke. And that's the thing. And then add on top of that, Mr. Wonderful, our what's his name, Kevin O'Leary, and he's pitching a different idea, though, and he's not pitching the Donald Trump, we're going to take over Canada, it's going to become the 51st state. No, he's pitching the idea of a union between the two countries, where we could have a shared currency, we could have passports that allow us to travel freely between the countries. We already have that, but what he means is economically. Like, if you wanted to go to university in the other country that you're from Canada, you want to go to the States, vice versa, then you'll be able to, get an easy visa. It wouldn't even be a visa. You just have to be enrolled in the school, and then you would be eligible to work and things like that. So there's a clip here of him saying precisely this. Let me pop this up on the screen where he's talking about this.
So you have suggested Canada could benefit from an agreement with the U.S. similar to the EU. Let's pretend we're on Shark Tank right now. What?
By the way, I don't know why he's wearing a suit and pajamas. It's just kind of weird, but
is your pitch? Sell it to us.
The economies are so intertwined that there's huge potential here. The polling in Canada was, do you want to sell your sovereignty? And obviously, nobody wants to do that. However, I'm very fortunate. I have over 10 million social media followers, so I poll them myself. There's a lot of interest in understanding what the economic benefits of union could look like. So why not just merge the currencies, give 2 seats on the Federal Reserve to the Bank of Canada, and every Canadian that I've talked to would gladly take American dollars in exchange for their Trudeau pesos, which is the reason Trudeau lost his job. He wiped out 41% of the net worth of every Canadian in his 9 years in a mandate. So he was a very poor manager. I think people understand that now. And so that's number one. Number two, a uni passport. That's just the nickname I gave it. Each country, if you had a Canadian passport in good standing and you had a US passport in good standing, regardless of where you were born, you could apply for a uni, which would give you free passage in both directions at one tax rate with no deductions. And so that's how you can control immigration, because you would say to a student that's trying to get into MIT or to Waterloo Robotics, you need to apply for a uni. And if you pass for it, you can move your family here and you get to stay and work in this country. That would solve the problem. You'd control immigration with the uni, and so on and so on. There's just so many opportunities. Okay. Nobody said you have to sell your sovereignty, but many Canadians are interested in exploring the economic union.
Yeah, so this is his pitch. He's not saying, you're not going to be a Canadian anymore. You can't identify as a Canadian or anything like that. We're gonna, he has this idea that we should open up the border so it's more, I don't want to say porous, but better fitting for businesses. And if you run a business in Canada, you know exactly how tricky it is to do cross-border business to business or transactions with customers. It's hell. It's awful. The trade restrictions, the rules, the French English language crap, all of this stuff is stuff that our government put in place. Not so much the US government. It's the Canadian government that's actually been really bad for cross-border economic stuff. And he's talking about making that getting rid of those barriers and making it easier for Canadian and American businesses to do business.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to say, okay, so two things here. Number one, this kind of goes back to the very first clip we watched with Trump there about how he first talked about Canada, and that would really be something in Greenland. So there's two things at play in Trump's mind. Number one, he sees the strategic benefits from a defensive position, from an economic powerhouse position. BRICS is on the rise. China's out of control. Russia's out of control. He sees a strategic advantage for the United States. It's not about Canada in any way, shape, or form. It would be beneficial for them to increase their territory and their resource pool. Then he went on afterwards, listed off all those things. He sort of passive aggressively mentioned the dairy cartel and all that other stuff. And that was him. I think what he's a little bit mad about is a few things that the USMCA might have missed. And Canada already got a horrible deal with USMCA. Like we sent a reporter who tried to inject climate nonsense and gender neutral whatever into a work plan, and we sent her into the negotiating room with the most powerful economy and experts in the world, and she's like, well, if you guys agree to gender neutral climate change provisions for workers in Mexico, we'll sign here. And they're like, sure, no problem. And the moment they left, they high-fived and all started laughing at her, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We got,
because no one's going to comply with those regulations. It's just the way it is.
Exactly. That she sought ideological nonsense rather than economic advantage for Canada. And now he wants more because he's this is what he does. This is his primary motivator in life, is to enhance wealth, and now he's going to try and enhance the wealth of America. And rightfully, that's what he should do as president of the United States, just like our prime minister should do. And
when we get one.
So that's the first component there. But then we see O'Leary talking about this sort of mix and match nonsense and stuff. And what I want to say to everyone out there watching this is that I think we can actually do better than the United States. And I know that's a bold claim. And the reason I say that is because the US Constitution, it's one of the most profound and incredible documents ever written, but it does fall short in some areas. And the first one I would say, namely, is that you can have the most powerful rights and freedoms guaranteed, backed by a military and a constitution in the whole world. But if the government can bankrupt you and tax you into oblivion, then it all means nothing. And I think that the United States, like, had Donald Trump not been elected, Kamala Harris would be in charge, and she would be bankrupting the United States right now in every way imaginable.
As we're in that situation right now, we're in Canada, we're down that path.
So what I propose, as I said, it would be to convert Canada to our own constitutional republic, use the US Constitution as a great starting point, put it on steroids, add some of the things that are missing from it, border protections, economic protections, these types of things, to ensure that the abuses that we see occurring here and in the United States do not proliferate. And we can, over time, become competitive or even supersede them, both from a civil liberties perspective as well as an economy. We are sitting on the world's largest oil reserves. We have massive mineral reserves. Everybody on the planet needs what we have. Those assets are only going to increase in value. All we need to do is merely harvest them, harness them, and keep our government in check from bankrupting us. I'm so tired of this.
Well, we're not doing it because we're managed by idiots. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, why Canadians have such tremendous backbone and such tremendous stick-to-itiveness and ingenuity and hardworking ethic. If you just allow Canadians to go to work, they get up and they go to work and they do it. But if you tie them down and then you give them perverse incentives, i.e., with the what do they call it, transfer payments, like we see going from Alberta to Quebec. You know, Quebec is sitting on massive natural resources, but they have a perverse incentive not to get into them and not to utilize them. So without these perverse incentives, I think we could be a powerhouse economically. Energy, minerals, resources, lumber, all of this stuff. It would be fantastic. I'm agreeing with you, by the way. I'm just giving you more examples of what I think goes along that line.
Yeah, I just the number one thing, like all of this crap that's happening right now, like you can feel the winds of political change are in the air. It's all over social media right now. People are saying we should do this, we should do that. No, we can't forget who we are. We have to do this. There's the nation is kind of rudderless, you know, but in that confusion and excitement and the winds of change, there's an opportunity for us as Canadians to advance our rights, to resolve some of these long-standing issues, because it's very important to remember, to everyone out there, I know a lot of people, they have really high hopes for Pierre Poilievre and what the Conservatives are going to do, but he will not be prime minister forever, and it will only take one Justin Trudeau to come in after him and economically enslave us for another 30 years. We have to put a stop to this government deciding what our rights are, deciding the next 30 years of what our taxation is going to be, deciding the amount of immigrants that are just going to come here without consulting us, deciding what our income tax rate will be, deciding that they're just going to take a capital gains tax out on our lifetime earnings and retirement. You know, this
without even passing it in Parliament. Yeah, no, we know.
Correct. And you know, everybody out there, I get into these arguments online and stuff about the charter and things, and people who try to push back, and I welcome the criticism. Bring it anytime, anywhere. But the bottom line is this, you know, basically almost every bad thing that could have happened to a Canadian over the last 10 years has happened. Property confiscation, you know, hyper taxation, hyper immigration, human rights violations, censorship, basically every single bad thing that could happen to us. And there's not going to be one person who is ultimately going to be held accountable for that. You know, maybe they might dig up some stuff in the new government. They find some money stolen here and there. But at the end of the day, we lack a constitution that holds corrupt government agents personally liable for their actions. They have multiple layers of legal protection that let them get away with all this stuff. And most of the time, the incoming party that replaces them, they don't really want to pursue that because they're worried about it happening to them in return someday. So we just sort of have this situation with the government that rules us and grants us our lucky little privileges. We're so lucky to sometimes be able to express ourselves. We're sometimes lucky to be able to hunt. We're sometimes lucky to be able to go places, travel places, you know. But if you mouth off too much, well, it's for the greater good. Sorry, your rights are nothing. And it's just not a tenable situation for us long term to live like this anymore. And now's the time to fix it. Now is the time to fix it. We push hard. Every politician, every party, we want rights. We want economic protections. We want to prevent what Justin Trudeau did or anyone else like him is thinking from ever happening again, because there's absolutely no benefit to what he did for any Canadian. Like, what, name something good that he did. I guess legalized weed, is that his?
It doesn't matter for me.
Everybody was smoking weed before him, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of one net gain. We've had someone in power who has destroyed us and provided us nothing in return, and there's absolutely nothing preventing that from happening again. Any government at any time could just pass a bill tomorrow criminalizing speech, like what's happening in the UK tomorrow. It's a permanent risk until it's addressed through the Constitution. And this is why I'm not a fan of the monarchy anymore. In a constitutional monarchy, the government has enshrined rights and the people have privileges. In a constitutional republic, the people have rights and the government is tasked with upholding them. And that is the fundamental difference, that we need to change the power dynamic in this country. And I need help. I need people to help and start listening and start pushing for this everywhere all the time, because we will come out as winners if we follow that road.
So I'll put you down for a no on the 51st state.
No to the 51st state. Yes
Yeah.
to the Republic, and
Yes.
out with Trudeau.
Beautiful.
That's where I'm at.
DJ, where can people find you online to hear more about what you're talking about?
Yukon Strong on Twitter. I did have a YouTube channel, but it was very gun oriented. And
Okay.
in light of all the confiscations and communism coming out of Ottawa, I deleted all my videos. But you can probably expect me to come back when there's a more amenable government to gun rights in Canada. I'll probably start posting content on here again. But for now, it's just on X, Yukon Strong. Send me a message. You have a question. I'm working on a bit of a thing right now to help people get their gun licensing and go through the PAL process and RPAL process nationally, because people ask me all the time about it. And
Yeah, how to do it. Well, I'll leave all the links in the description down
Okay.
below.
Thank you.